So let's start with what you think has really led to the rise that we're seeing in female players in esports.
Well, Rochelle, women have traditionally been interested in video games, just like you find some women that watch football or soccer or any other sport out there. The esports is that traditionally boys were the ones that played it most, but there have always been women at the sidelines. And for whatever reason, like we heard from your correspondent about sexism or women not feeling welcome, we're starting to see that attitude change. We're starting to see organizations and brands coming together and saying, hey, women, we want you here, we value you, and we recognize that you have skills just like anybody else, which is why certain teams have recruiting females as well, such as the Shanghai Dragons.
Now, I want to also talk about the average income for some of these professional esports athletes. How does that pay then up when it comes to the gender differences?
You know, that is a great question and very hard to calculate. So I would love to know that answer. For example, with the Overwatch League, with the Shanghai Dragons, we have the only female player on this team in the league. Everyone is have a minimum of a $50,000 salary. Now, that is a minimum. So we don't know exactly how much Gengu makes, the only female on the team, compared to her male counterpart. However, if you look at prize money, you look at sponsorships, and any donations that she might receive from her followers online, it gets pretty muddy water there to figure out exactly how they're making.
Now, I want to look at this issue of some of these women-only tournaments. On one hand, you want to encourage more women to enter the sport. On the other hand, it could be argued that it's sexist and promotes the stereotype that there's a difference between male and female players. What are your thoughts on this?
You know, I'm on one side that says that it is a means to an end. I believe that the only way to have equality between men and women in the esports space is to have co-ed teams, and that if there's an all-girl team, it's going to become a group of friends came together and formed that team themselves. However, we are starting to see that. What we don't see a lot with these all-female tournaments is the same amount of fanfare or publicity that you get with other tournaments. I believe that the basic reason for these is that it is a neon sign for women everywhere. Hey, we want you in esports. Look at all these women in esports. You can do this too. You're welcome. But as we've seen, FaZe Clan just recruited a 13-year-old girl onto the team. As I said, Shanghai Dragons. I believe that we're going to see a lot more females integrated into the teams themselves that were traditionally male, and that going forward, especially as mobile esports is more popular and the rise of 5G, that we're going to start seeing a lot more females in that space as well.
Now, for people who aren't familiar, what are some of the ways that professional gamers make money off the sport as well as their personal brands in esports?
That's a great question. A lot of professional gamers now have talent agents and managers, just like any other celebrity. We're seeing them on talk shows at night, and there's a good reason to draw a large audience. So what they do is they stream on platforms like Twitch, Facebook Gaming, YouTube, Mixer, and they gain donations from their fans. They also create brand partnerships so that they become essentially an infomercial for a brand that they can talk to their audiences with in an engaging and authentic way. They do receive compensation and products for this. And then, of course, if they're on a team, they receive a salary. And when they win, which, of course, we all want to, they get their own share of the prize money as well.
Now, as and other governments recognize and legitimize esports at the national level, how important is that for growing the industry and its inclusion in some of these major sporting events like the Olympics?
This is incredibly important, and I'm glad you brought up the Olympics. Japan is currently trying to figure out a way to legitimize and legalize esports. A lot of Japanese government has been built around fighting gangs, and so gambling and esports are often mixed in terms of definitions. And so there are a great need for legitimization in esports in these areas, especially in the Asian Pacific where esports is growing so rapidly, sends a message not only to brand partners and to athletes that this is a legitimate sport that you can make as a career, and both men and women are welcome.